you get a list of it?
So good evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order the town board meeting for April 24th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. As always, we are running our meeting hybrid. So while we have folks here in the room with us, we're also running a Zoom for remote participation, and we are live streaming simultaneously to YouTube, Facebook, and to our website. If you have questions about how to take part in our meeting remotely, you can find the instructions to join at the top of each of our agendas. And I just wanted to recognize that Councilor Italiano is joining us remotely today. She's out of town for business. So with that, I would ask Councilor Nash to lead us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If we could ask you to remain standing, we'd like to observe a moment of silence for the two fallen officers. Thank you.
Okay, so with that, we have a slight addition to the agenda. We have our town clerk, Allison Weber. I think you have something to present to the board.
I do. So I will read this into the record and then I will submit it to you guys because you have a bunch of places that you need to file this. Dear counselors, I am ready to tender my resignation from the position of town clerk effective April 30th. These are happy tears. These are happy tears. Effective April 30th, 2024. As required by law, please consider this letter my official resignation letter to be filed accordingly. It has been an honor to serve the residents of the town of Manlius for the past 16 years. And I am grateful for the support that I've received from the community and the opportunity to contribute in such a meaningful way. So thank you.
So to respond to this letter, no, we're not allowed to reject. Sorry. Actually, the town clerk is the one that can reject.
Yeah, that is a trap.
That's the rules. So with that, I would ask the board to consider a motion to appoint Harry Gravelli for vacancy.
So moved. Second.
Oh my God.
So-
You guys are making my first one.
That motion is a motion to
However you want to
appoint.
write it.
That motion is a motion to appoint Harry Gravelli, the town clerk, effective May 1st, 2024, with term ending December 31st, 2024, filling the vacancy of Allison Weber.
So.
You get to swear in. Do all, can we do the all in favor?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously.
I would like to swear Carrie in, if you would grant me that last duty. You are all in very good hands with Carrie. I have trained Carrie. She is a community member. I am proud of her. I am happy for her, and she is gonna carry on my legacy, so. Do you want to have your family come up? You guys stand right over here. Come on. Husbands too. My husband can tell you all about it.
More chairs.
And if you guys can, just so Carrie can be in the spotlight, scooch right in there. You good? They're here for. All right, so if you'll raise your hand and repeat after me. I, Carrie Gravelli,
I, Carrie Gravelli,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of town clerk
the duties of town clerk
according to the best of my abilities.
according to the best of my abilities.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, you're right, you're right.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's the way around. I'm at the Caitlin. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. It'll be fun.
Congratulations, Carrie.
Bye, everybody.
Yeah.
You guys are great hands. You're gonna be great.
Okay, so with that, we will roll right into the podium. The first item I have here recognizes that it's for the public hearing, so we'll hold off on that. First up, after that is Mary Karpinski, recognition of Allison Weber.
Wow, this was not on the agenda, but, I did notice, from, a previous meeting that Allison had submitted her resignation. So for the record, I want to publicly thank Allison Weber for 16 years of public service to the residents of the town of Manlius. Since 2008, she has worked to provide us all with knowledgeable and professional service in her role as town clerk. The position of town clerk is essential to the operation of local government. It's important to maintain accurate records, respond to FOIA requests, assist the public with online services, and answer questions residents may have about many issues ranging from dog licensing to voting. Over the past year, Allison has helped several of my neighbors who needed absentee ballots. Notably, it's a special help she provided to a homebound neighbor who wanted to make her voice heard at a public hearing. She also helped us with obtaining records pertinent to our understanding of town governance and to our participation in the governing process. Allison Weber has served the town residents well. We hope her successor will continue to follow the standard that she set. And on behalf of a grateful community, I ask that my comment be entered into the public record.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So if anyone is joining us remotely for open podium, please do use the raise hand function. We'll get you in the queue. Next up, we have Steve Benson.
Thank you, Steve Benson from Manlius. And I'm hoping I can address the local development corporation. Is that something I can talk
We
about
do have
very
a public
quickly?
hearing coming up at our next meeting,
Right,
just like we did last meeting.
but it wasn't indicated fully in the agenda till recently. And so I'd just like to ask three
And
questions.
we're not gonna consider that because we have a public hearing coming up and
Yeah.
everyone will be present. And if you can't make it, please do send in your comment about the local development corporation.
So you won't let me talk about that.
Not about that topic, no.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just want to be on the record.
Yeah,
I just want to be on the record, same thing, I think, it's okay, it should be heard at open forum, but I acknowledge that, the supervisor has a fine say on what's spoken to, on the phone.
next up, Chris.
I
will let you know, we have been figuring out a time, it's been very difficult to find a time that we're gonna be able to meet, and the invitation to the pending, I think we're calling it the pool study group, are meant to go out as short as possible.
So it was about a month ago that I heard the same thing, it would be going out a week, the following week, right? So is there an exact date? Can I get an update on like by tomorrow or sometime this week of when they're actually gonna go out? I mean, I've heard things through Steve Ball, that they're coming and that there's a meeting coming, but until there's invites, right, I'm not sure that you can go any further, and we're anxious to help, right?
Yep.
just a lot of different schedules in play in our full-time jobs, and we want to be able to dedicate the appropriate amount of time to it, as it's important, it is important to a lot of community members. And I think, I can say the date that we're looking at is the 29th. Time and location are still pending.
April 29th?
So,
Yes.
That's pretty.
but we don't, I guess I'm confused a little bit because we're supposed to send out invites. We don't know yet who's on the committee or the study group, whatever we want to call it, right? So the 29th is less than a week away, but we don't know who's gonna be, other than, I think, Steve and Mike Langen have offered to be on that group as sort of people at
Yeah,
large.
so other folks are representatives from both the school districts who originally had reached out about that. Counselor Neshi and Counselor Gonzalez McCurdy. And in addition to our head of the recreation department. And I think there's maybe one or two other folks that are invited, but the hope is to have everybody to sit down. And then if people are missing, or if there's other people to consider as being part of it, to bring those folks in.
So there are people from each of the school boards that have signed up to be a part of this?
Yep, yeah, we started the original conversation together and they'll be invited, and if they can't make it, I'm assuming they'll be sending another board member.
Is there any way to share who those people are?
It's Marissa Mims from FM and Kay Gallery from ESM.
Oh, just, okay, one representative.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean, if they feel the need to bring more, they'll be more than welcome.
okay. And I think you have my email address. I
Yep.
sent you an email a
Yep.
little while ago. Yeah, if you could, I'm just asking to keep me in the loop because I'm part of that group that we're trying to communicate and trying to help and trying to do a few things, right? And so, sharing any information that you can share with us about the invites are going out by the end of the week or whatever would be helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I should be able to wrap that up either tonight or tomorrow.
Okay,
I think what we're hoping to do is start a formal organizational process on the 29th,
okay,
get things rolling.
right, okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Anyone else here for open podium? Okay, no one from Zoom? So we will roll right along. First up, item number 4, we have our unsafe building. Oh, so yeah, just hold off, sorry.
No problem.
We do have 2 letters that were submitted to be read at open voting.
The resident showed up that wrote one of those and wants to read it. Is that
Oh.
Okay.
Do you need your letter?
Oh, you have it?
I do. I just need.
My eyes aren't as good as they used to be, so I can't read my phone.
Did you send an email or did you have it?
Oh, the email.
There you go.
Oh, God, I gotta read it. Thanks, Mike. All right, so, I mean, I'm here today because,
Can you just read your name for the record?
oh, yeah. I, Jennifer Wood, am here today, because we're having trouble over in Fremont Meadows, which is where I live, with the, Limestone Creek wastewater treatment plant. The smell over there has gotten atrocious. It's becoming unbearable and it's very often. So I'm just here requesting like information, where we're going with it, when it's gonna be resolved, something I can hope and pray on. You want me to read the email?
If you'd like, otherwise we can enter it into the.
We can just enter it into the record if you don't want to read the
If
whole
you, yeah,
thing.
you can just share your thoughts and then we'll put that in the record. Like, you don't have to read it out loud if you don't want to.
All right, I'll read it because it's got pretty much all my thoughts. All right, dear friends, I'm writing to you today desperate and begging for an answer, a resolution, anything that is a sound and honest reply. I live at 7327 Spring Mountain Drive in Fremont Meadows. My house is on the 7th green of Erie Lakes. I also own another property in the development. The sewage smell coming from the Meadowbrook Limestone wastewater treatment plant is horrendous at best. It has become a major problem at both properties and throughout the neighborhood. I used to run the neighborhood, and over the years, I've noticed the issue is spreading to all corners of the neighborhood, including parts of North Burdick. I use the word used to run because sucking in that air while running makes me feel like I am eating it. Sorry to be graphic, but that is exactly what it's like. I'm sorry to be so disgusting and graphic, but that's what it's like. The smell is now in my house. My garage smells like it. Often I walk into my home and I have to ignite candles because the smell inside is atrocious. I keep my windows closed at all times because I never know when the wind will change or something is or isn't happening at the plant. I have friends and relatives over and I'm embarrassed. Oftentimes we've had to come inside because it's unbearable. I've been calling the plant for years
and they correct the issue pretty quickly. However, I don't feel I should have to call to have something done to fix the smell. I don't understand why whatever they are doing when I call can't be just done consistently to keep the smell contained. I've been told that tests were conducted or going to be conducted in order to tell us if we are breathing in anything harmful. I would like to know where I can find the results of those tests. My daughter has constant headaches. Her room is on the side of the golf course. I've been to all the doctors, eye doctor, ENT doctor, and even a neurologist, and none of them have any reason why she has the headaches that she does. I'd really love to put at rest that it isn't because of the sewer gas smell. I realize correcting this problem is a major undertaking. However, this has been going on for years and years, if not decades. Is the end in sight? What can I do to help? It's not fair that we have to live like this. Can you imagine living like this, sitting next to your child by your pool and watching their face pucker up in disgust and go back inside? Would you be okay with it? I'm not a complainer. I'm a good citizen. I do what I can to help my community with the tools I have. I own several properties in Onondaga County, many in the town of Manlius. I own a business, soon to be 2 businesses. I've also brought other successful businesses, not of my own, to our village of Manoa. I pay my taxes, usually early. Anything you can do to help this neighborhood and myself, I would appreciate immensely. I know it's a big undertaking, but it would be nice to have some type of answer, something to look forward to. That's all I got.
Thank you. We can just address this.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
No, we should
Yeah,
say something.
Yeah, just that way.
Do you want me to read this?
Yeah.
Yes, just.
Walk it out.
Okay, this is another letter we received. It says, "Dear Mr. John Deere, I'm a resident of Fremont Meadows, neighborhood in East Syracuse, New York 13057. I'm writing to express my deep concern over the horrendous sewage smell coming from the Meadowbrook limestone wastewater treatment plant. Several neighbors have reported getting constant headaches. Besides serious health risks that this neighborhood is being exposed to, what about other problems, such as reduced property values, severely reduced quality of life? We can't go for walks, ride bikes, enjoy outdoor cookouts, relaxing on our deck, and entertain family and friends in our outdoor spaces. This serious problem has existed for many years in our neighborhood. This needs to be rectified. It seems this topic has been addressed over and over again between residents of this neighborhood and the town of Manlius for many years, going way back. I have seen past communications between county legislator, EPA protection committee members, various town of Manlius board members in the past, and the county executive. The conversations and communications go way back in time, all concerning the same topic/problem. Horrendous sewer smell in Fremont Meadows, the limestone waste treatment plant. When will this be totally resolved? Why is it taking so long to do so? Would any of you want to live in this environment and subject your families to serious health concerns and reduced quality of life? That was signed Diane. Jessen.
Oh, who's my name?
So we just, and the council actually has. But yeah, so we'll call open for the proposed.
Are you gonna read it or just?
Is
You
this
wanna
on?
call, make a final?
So if there's anyone in the audience who'd like to speak at open podium, please use the raise hand function, but feel free to address that.
All right, yeah, so, I also, with a fellow counselor, live in Fremont Meadows, and we too have been a victim to this horrendous smell over the years. For myself, it's only been 7 years. I moved right across the street from Miss Wood. She did used to run in the mornings. I used to leave for work, and she'd wave as she ran by. I don't see her running by. I lived in the north part of the town where my backyard was really wet and you couldn't ride your bike on Fremont Road. So we moved down there because what better than a nice closed circle to ride your bike for the kids, and we could walk into Erie Village and you can walk there and you can catch the canal. But when you try to do so, the smell is overwhelming. When you try to get fresh air in the spring and air your house out from the winter, the smell is overwhelming. It comes into your house, disgusting. When you put the heat on in the winter in your car, as you're driving out of the neighborhood, it comes into the car. And like it was previously described, don't mouth breathe because you can taste it. It's so thick, it's so bad. I ran on this issue And, only when I became very critical did I get a response from a county legislator. And we got an update only 3 days after I made a post on social media. And I believe that update said that there was a mitigation process planned to address this issue, similar to one that they put in place in Baldwinsville several years ago. Apparently, the residents there found it to be satisfactory, and we were provided with one letter from one resident thanking the county for what they did. I will correct one thing, because I have been so involved in this, but when we call, and we were told to call, a note is made and that's passed on, and maybe somebody comes out to drive to see if they can smell it. My belief is that they're so conditioned to the smell, they can't smell it when they get so far from the plant, because they work around it all day long. But they don't do anything to correct it when we call. There's nothing that can be done. It just kind of resolves because it is intermittent. So we don't live in it every day, but conveniently, it seems to be when you get home from work, when you're leaving for work, or on the weekend when you want to have a barbecue or have people over. I got a lot of complaints from our neighbors during the eclipse that a lot of family came in because we were right in line with being able to see it, though the clouds didn't help that day. And they were embarrassed, and frankly, they had to go inside during the eclipse and try to watch through a window with their screens off so they could see, because it was so bad. And some people had family from out of state come in specifically for that, and it's not good. And as bad as it smells, you have to wonder if it causes any issues with people's health. So I would like to ask the board to send a letter to the county requesting that we be addressed during a meeting by somebody of authority with the connected to the project, to give us an update and to see if there's the ability to have the project expedited, for our town residents. And, I will note, the town does not own that property, does not own that plant. We, can merely just be advocates for our residents. And that's what I'd like to do tonight. And I'll make a motion that, the board put together a satisfactory letter and send it to the county.
You have already
Yes.
done that, so he's already done a draft letter and you're gonna. Okay. I want to thank you for your leadership on that.
Well, thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. I want to thank you for taking my recommendations on tone and approach, because I also agree that this is an unsustainable problem, but I want us to be effective. I don't want us to just be agitators, I want us to be effective. So I thank you for your receptivity. I appreciate your feedback.
I'm very harsh in the beginning, and I need teammates to bring me down, but, I breathed it in, I lived it for 7 years, and unfortunately, now my kids are 19 and 21, so I don't feel like they got to enjoy the neighborhood, which, as much as our intent was when we moved into the,
So when we were first elected and we were going through that whole process with WEP, and they wanted us to lease our pipes, and they were coming to our meetings, like consistently, like we had Shannon and the gentleman, whose name I'm not remembering. I don't believe either of them were with WEP anymore, but they were here, we had to have a public hearing, like we can call our county legislator, and hope to hear back. I know there's been a pretty consistent lack of response. Is there any possibility of scheduling a meeting and requesting, but perhaps maybe demanding that someone from up come?
Well, so
That's the point of the letter.
the letter is addressed to bring somebody in. Problem and not just be.
Can that, I guess my question is, can that be formatted as a public hearing so the residents can all come and maybe we could do it like we've done other meetings?
Yeah,
Where
so that's.
we don't let, like, not everyone speaks and we're here for 7 hours, but like we, let several people kind of represent the
Well, so
different elements of it.
what we'll do is we'll discuss with whoever we get in contact with over
what the response.
and then we'll make a decision to either schedule a work session so that we can commit an hour so people can, share their comments, get on the record, speak directly to somebody who has the ability to change things. Or we can schedule as well. I think that's very much.
I would recommend the work session approach. I think this is a capital project in the works. There's not a lot of publicly available information about it, and the questions that should be addressed are addressable. But I think we would probably catch more flies with honey.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So I do think it's important to note that this is in the county's work plan.
It is.
It just does not seem to have been expedited at the rate that the smell would warrant.
Right, so the original plan, I think, called for completion in 2026, and with some pre-ordering or whatever the term was, we're hoping to be able to push completion to December of 2025. But I think since that's been formulated, things have significantly changed in the way of like supply chains and ordering, that I'm hopeful maybe with a little attention, they might be able to expedite something a little quicker. And absolutely, I'm not looking for an attack meeting. I just want them to understand, while the residents understand that things take time. If there's anything that they can do, here's why, because you don't get these years of your life back. I might push grandkids through there in clean air, but I didn't, you know.
I think the work session is the best
I think
approach,
so.
because the project itself is a multi-year improvement project, and I believe that the first phase to be completed in 25 is actually the aeration system, which is addressing the problem that we're talking about. So,
Yeah.
although the project finishing is slated for 2026, this particular issue may be addressed prior to ultimate project.
So that's the completion for the area. Was December 25, is how I understand.
25, right.
Yeah. Okay, so we have a motion, we'll do the first second. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And,
And we will publicize when the work session will be so that you guys are all aware of when that will be.
and we'll do, when we finalize the letter, we'll throw it out to the next agenda. And we'll just confirm with everybody that it has been sent.
That's great.
And we can create like a flyer or something too, that you can post on like community pages. I would be happy to make that for you with all the details, and then if you would be, we could print them out if you wanted to help distribute them to your neighbors, and then, I don't know, I'm sure you have like next door, right, and Facebook groups, that we could then post there too. So as that process moves along, please feel free to email me and we can collaborate on that further.
Thank you. Okay, so item number 4 on the agenda, the unsafe building at 602 Fremont Road. Do we have a representative of the property owner?
I believe so.
There we go.
Hi, Marie Wilson from Gross Pillowy on behalf of Fay Servicing.
Thanks, we can hear you. So we're, we're looking for, I think at this point, we're gonna want some proof that things are moving forward. Otherwise, the board would be considering moving towards, demolition of our own volition. So feel free to give us an update and let us know where you're at.
Right. So the architect did do the full inspection and appraisal, and she's going to provide drawings by May 22nd. And my client does have a bid in place to have a fence put up. I know that some of the concerns were, especially with the summer season coming, that there would be a possible danger to kids or other people in the neighborhood if they tried to go onto the property. So they did receive a bid to place a fence around the property. I don't have an ETA on when that would occur, but hopefully within the next few weeks.
So understanding May 22nd is when the architect is gonna get you guys some drawings. Can you give us a time frame for when you think I guess what we're really looking for is, has the decision been made to bring down the building or to perform some type of maintenance?
At this point, my client is of the position that they are going to restore the property. And so they're waiting on the drawings from the architect to see exactly what that's going to take. It looks like it's going to be extensive.
Why are they
Why didn't they
doing
do this
that?
6 months ago?
Yeah.
Why are they trying to fix that property up? It's like caving in on itself. I'm just purely curious.
And if they're gonna do that, I want it fenced.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah,
that's-
but I wanna know it's not historic. I don't really see the redeeming, like, I'm just curious, like, is there Why are they so interested in salvaging this property?
Rather than demolishing it.
Yeah.
They seem pretty set on that. We have advised them the condition of the property, that, you know, the board has expressed that, you know, more than likely it should be demolished, and they're still proceeding as to restoring the property. I don't have an answer to you for that question, because our recommendation was also that it should be demolished. So, but that's not what they want to do.
And so then is there a time frame for the fencing?
I don't have a time frame. I'm hoping to have that within the next few weeks. They did not provide me with a time frame for this evening.
I don't think that
Don't like that.
that is not sufficient for them. I think we need to set a date for a fence.
Well, I guess that's really just, you know, so if you'd like to let the board know what some of our options are.
So you have a procedure under your code which will allow the town board to actually demolish the property and also put the cost and assess the cost. This town board may authorize me at any point to go ahead and draft that order, and we can schedule a date for when the order will be adopted by the town. I believe there's correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there's a 60-day period between the time from when the order is adopted by the board and when the town can actually start the demolition procedure. But given that we don't really have a clear answer or time frame, I think it's totally appropriate for the town board at this time to schedule a date on which we'll adopt an order specifying why the town board feels this is a public health and safety risk, and basically forcing the hand of the owner to do something in that 60-day period. And if they don't, town can go in and demolish the property at that point.
I'm comfortable with that approach at this
I
time.
do, I am too. I think we're at that point as well. I mean, we have been more than generous with the timeframes that we've given. And every time we have a meeting with them, we can keep being told, oh, a few weeks. But if you're saying that we have 60 days from the time the order's drafted even, I mean, we just keep prolonging this at this point. We don't even have a time for when the fence can go up. It doesn't take that long to get a fence.
That's right. It's securing the property, not demolishing it, that we're after, and I'm not satisfied with that answer.
Yeah, so my question for you is, can we, in a more promptly way, fence the property and charge for it?
I don't believe, I would have to take a closer look at the code, but I think the town board is considering right now a property maintenance code. I don't think we necessarily have that as part of our code yet, but I will look at the code to see if there's an avenue
Because
for doing
60
that.
days, I mean, there's still a lot of hazardous time.
With the school being out
Yeah.
as well, kids being around.
It's a hazard now.
So May 8th would be our next meeting, so 60 days from May 8th. And then in that 60-day window, what could the property owner do to change the outcome?
Well, the town board can withdraw the order at any time, so if the town board is satisfied that the property is secure, it's not a nuisance or a hazard to the public around it, the town board can withdraw the order at that point and not proceed with demolishing it.
Okay.
So, I mean, that kind of puts the ball in the court of the owner to start making some moves.
That's to
let's
be
do
clear,
that
the full cost of it is on the town.
It will be upfront, but then it can be assessed on the tax roll.
Yeah,
You'll be able to
taxes, right.
remove it through the taxes.
So,
If I may say, I believe when I did the initial appearance before the town board, and we have already gone through that 60-day notice. So at this point, we would just need the resolution by the town board for the demolition of the structure. We can, with proper legal review for the final resolution, ensure that everything was served, but we had served and posted the property, the initial 60 days was given.
That it was unsafe, that we made
Yeah,
a determination.
an unsafe
That was back
structure.
in
We gave them 60
That
days.
was,
That the correct
we've
situation.
gone past the 60 days at this point. And we can, and we started that process with the previous town attorney, but I can have Joe review everything that we had previously done.
Yeah.
Because at this point, it would just be the passing of the resolution to move forward. And then we, the town, would have to commence within the time period specified within chapter 63 and have it completed within the time frame specified. I don't have those dates exactly.
okay,
But
so.
there is, I believe if we did the review, we've already given the 60 days for them to secure or demolish the building.
So I think maybe the right steps forward, one, we'll have the town attorney and the code enforcement officer work together to prepare something for our consideration at the May 8th meeting. And in that time, we'll provide a summary of what our options are, what timelines are, rough costs of things as much as possible that we can consider. And then, I would just ask, before May 8th ideally, but as soon as possible, I would really like to request that we can schedule a meeting, ideally with owners present. I would like to have a conversation and explain to them where the town board is coming from, why we're looking at this course of action, and try connect and better understand timelines, because I think the general response tonight is that the timelines that are presented or not presented are not sufficient for the town board. So, any disagreement in that?
No. I mean, I'd be curious to see like the renderings of what they're hoping to do, but I think that's just because I like looking at Zillow in my spare time, at this point.
I mean, to clarify, my client's not the owner, they're the first mortgage holder. They don't own the property. So that's their interest in the property.
So then there's another party to this that would be actually the owner?
Yes, the owner of the property is Kathy Claflin, or Claflin. I might be mispronouncing that, but yeah, Kathy Claflin. We're foreclosing on the property, and we hold the first mortgage. That's why we're involved.
What bank is your client?
I'm sorry?
What bank is your client, or what's the name
It's
of their
Fay
bank?
Loan Servicing.
Fay Loan Servicing. So Marie, so you correspond only with the bank, you never speak with the woman who owns the property?
Exactly. We have not had any interaction with the person who owns the property. My understanding is that it's vacant.
So is Ms. Clayton the one that is being foreclosed on?
Yes.
Yeah.
So do you even have the ability to do anything with this property since you don't own it at this point?
We do, because it's vacant, and pursuant to the terms of the note and mortgage, we do have the ability to go in and secure and maintain the property.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would note that to the best of my knowledge, Kathy Clayton is deceased, and we have served all the parties involved with the property. And we did hear back from another individual, and they said they did not, I believe it was her husband, that said that he did not want anything to do with the property. He had the Stefano attorneys in DeWitt reach out to us and just wanted to make sure there was no liability for his client if it moved forward.
If what moved forward?
The demolition of the
Demolition?
of the
It sounds
house.
like it would be on the bank, not on the individual, since they foreclosed on the property.
Unless it was left to him and it's not, is the foreclosure complete?
Well, we do have, we'll let them get.
Well, straighten it all out, but I think, Marie, I think really, I would look to speak with whoever is managing this project, to get I guess what we're saying is we're gonna prepare our next steps, which are gonna be to draft the order and start that ball rolling, and, but by May 8th, I would expect a phone call or an email so we can set some time up to talk, because I feel it's important that I can provide the board with more accurate timelines or better timelines. Otherwise, it sounds like we'll be moving on with our process.
I completely understand. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate you coming tonight. Thank you very much. Okay.
I just wanna, last board meeting, I had spoken of the development planning committee. I have made some changes to that, and I will be sending out that draft to everybody that is potentially going to have a seat on that. So you will see that, and then there will be a timeline for comments from any stakeholder or anybody that would be part of that committee. And we will be presenting at the end of May at that town board meeting for it, hopefully. If comments are in, if not, it would be the first June meeting.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much. I will be logging back on to view the rest of it. I have to leave for the rest of the night.
He walks out like a boss too, he's like,
Alright, so, next order of business, we have to set a date for a work session, town code analysis.
So,
I'd like to set a date for a work session, May 8th at 5 p.m. for the purpose of continuing discussion on the code analysis.
Second?
You just look at it.
And any other discussion.
Second, okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. I will say, the first work session we did was very productive, had a lot of really good conversations. I'm excited that we're getting back to this and excited for the final product.
It's really interesting, so the Manlius Watershed Stewards are embarking on a review of codes in time for the work session, with what may implicate, what parts may be implicated in smart watershed management, including part 125, 126, 127. We have a member of the committee here with us tonight, who's tuned in, so it's gonna be very exciting.
Is that an open meeting or is it closed sessions?
The work sessions are open to the public, and generally speaking, for work sessions, we do have some type of program or preset discussion. And, you know, if there is time, we're happy to have conversations with, any, residents that are present. Okay, so next up, we have the CIRO agreements on there. We're gonna table those, after a conversation I had with the chief. I'll get back to everybody with some updates. But we'll be, amending those and sending those back to the school board. So next up, we have the public hearing for the RT zoning update that continues to be open. And so just want to kind of review the changes that were made from the previous agenda where this was posted. So following a great discussion with the planning board, their recommendation was to essentially make this a much more generic update to allow for retail with a special permit within the RT zone. And they did also ask that we would expand our definitions within the code to include cannabis, cannabis products or cannabis infused products, and cannabis retail dispensary. Those definitions were taken from the relevant state laws, and the change to the zoning code is amended to, as I stated, to essentially allow retail sales, including grocery stores, pharmacies, department stores, specialty shops, including cannabis retail dispensaries within the RT zone, but that is subject to a site plan and special use permit through the planning board. So essentially the same ideas we had done previously, but rather than focusing particularly on dispensaries, this is considering everything within the retail definition. So with that, does the board have any comments or questions? Okay, so just for a show of hands, who's here to speak on this? Well, and then if anybody is in attendance via Zoom, please use the raise hand function. You did, okay, yeah. Yeah, come on up. And then we, I just have from Carrie that we've got an email, so we'll have to share that after.
So I'm Don Gates. I was on the Town of Manlius Steering Committee for the Comprehensive Plan. And when this came about and I heard about it, I expressed some concerns. I want to say thank you to John Gear, supervisor, for taking the time to speak with me about the concerns, and also William Nicholson and several others. So thank you for taking the time. I'm still trying to understand the implications of this. I live in Post Road, which is part of the Glencliff neighborhood. And many of the residents, including myself, we all talk about how we want to be able to walk into the village from there. It's going through from the village, from the weird property or municipalities, you go from the village to the town, back to the village. And there's that connection, right, with waves as well.
He is that weird property.
He's the official greeter. But so on that stretch of Seneca Street between Brickyard Falls and True K, on the right side as you head into the village is Limestone Commons, a commercial area. On the left side, as it, it's just for, it's been traditionally residential, or I shouldn't say traditionally in the code, residential transition, which means small operations in terms of, it could be a dressmaker and such as it already says here. I am concerned about this new change in the code because to me it goes against the spirit of the comprehensive plan. Comprehensive plan, if you look at page 35, and I wish I brought the printed one and not my iPad that keeps going to sleep. It says concentrate future development within already developed areas, particularly those already that have access to public infrastructure, and also housing options and development that cultivate neighborhoods and walkability. My concern is, already my son doesn't want to bike. He would like to be able to bike to high school. Kids like to walk along there. Any further development on the left side heading east is just gonna add to traffic, and there's not even a sufficient sidewalk right now to handle proper in and out. And I realize, and I really think, again, all you guys up here for taking the time to explain that it is a special use permit, but I'm concerned about two things. Precedent, you allow, and I have no objection to dispensary as an operation. I just have an objection to the idea of a precedent allowing that structure or that business to be there, then what keeps the next business? Because it says in here, retail, bakery. Oh, wait, you guys just approved that. Why can't I get a site plan for my small little donut shop? And next thing you know, there's a drive-through. The next thing you know, already, I'm glad to see the success of Limestone Commons, but it is very dangerous to walk or ride your bike along either side. It's not easy. So approving any kind, and I'm kind of surprised the planning board even allowed the special permit for this, because again, the comprehensive plan, I wish the planning board would use the comprehensive plan, address it in their notes that they said section 35, we have concern. A planning board member told me the other day, we've already had conflicts with the comprehensive plan. I didn't hear how they're resolved. If you want citizens to participate in these plans, it was said you should be listening and first referring to the comprehensive plan and citing it, and then say, wait, we are still going to meet this goal. How? I don't see how. And again, it's not to do with the dispensary, it's the business. I don't have a problem with small little shops that are there, like the Brave Shop, but I want to see kids and families be able to walk from the Glen Cliff across that bridge, which is already too narrow, and the traffic there already is poor and dangerous. We already get cut through traffic through my neighborhood on Post Road, which I've been down to the Village constant, they're tired of seeing me, because people don't want to go through that intersection. They want to avoid that light, so they come and cut through the Glen Cliff neighborhood up. To me, this will only accelerate that issue. Also, I didn't see any reference to the traffic study that was done by the Syracuse Metropolitan Traffic Study in January of 2023, where they showed the amount of cars and suggestions about making it walkable, bikeable. I think, and this is the challenge, it's a strength and a weakness that in towns, we have towns and villages, but we need to communicate and we need to look at what each municipality is doing and how to work together. So I would just, I'm only one person, but I think I do represent the concerns of my neighborhood and other people. And also, having sat through 2 years of the comprehensive plan and listening to people's concerns, I didn't hear anybody say we want more commercial development along Seneca. I don't understand why we need one more. I think we need one less. I think we need more housing along that street, because that's what we have a shortage of. We don't have a shortage of businesses. We have a shortage of good, affordable housing, safe housing. And but we also want it to be walkable. I think anything that should even be a special permit even be considered, there should be a sidewalk and proper egress installed first. So I don't know, I probably went on too long, but I wanted to make sure that I feel like it's a responsibility when you're on one of these committees, such as the comprehensive plan. We heard 2 years of people speaking, coming to public hearings, and over, and on page 35 of the comprehensive plan, we want healthy, walkable communities. And I would defer to the town board and the planning board to achieve that goal. Doesn't mean there's one way to do it, but I would just say it should be safe and walkable, whatever you guys come up with. And should not increase the traffic unless there's a solution. I don't need any more cars zipping by my house, going fast, looking at their cell phones. It's only a matter of time, which scares me that somebody's gonna get hurt.
Are you familiar, and sir, I'm so sorry, can you remind me of your first name? I apologize.
Don.
Don, yes, I knew your name,
Yeah,
and
that's all
I
right.
was completely blinking. Have you followed Elaine Denton, the previous town councilors?
Sidewalks.
The sidewalk
Yeah.
program, so we've got a meeting coming up that I'll talk about a little bit more in a second
Mhm.
before we wrap up tonight at Mott Road, coming up in a few weeks, about a potential sidewalk program on Mott Road. Elaine's been working really hard, and she should be coming up soon here in one of our upcoming meetings. She just requested a meeting just a few days ago to present on her progress on Enders Road.
Mhm.
And like for this project, in light of this public hearing, I don't expect that this will be increasing the traffic very much at all. It's really at all. Like this isn't certainly it's not gonna ever have a drive-through. We would never change the zone to allow that. So I hear your concerns and I agree with you, that little area, Councilor Nicholson.
I'm gonna get hit in my mail.
Yeah.
But it's not safe to even have anything there that creates traffic at this point, in my mind.
I don't believe that will create any more traffic than is already there. This is a very low traffic.
So what does the
enterprise.
traffic people say? That's what I'm saying. Did you refer to the traffic study?
I have read the traffic study and when we, in light of the comprehensive plan, we consider that an area with commercial. So to develop, there's commercial.
When did we consider Seneca Street as commercial viable?
This is a public hearing, what, you know.
I thought I wanted to
Yeah.
engage with her.
Right.
Yeah.
No, and I appreciate her expressing concerns, but I don't think we ever envisioned that side of the street being commercial. So you're saying you're for it being commercial?
I'm not saying I'm for it being commercial, like I wouldn't approve a giant commercial project there, but I don't see the issue with a special use permit for that parcel at this time.
But
because
why
it's
do we
pretty-
need it there? Why there? Why not in an underutilized commercial area
So I'll
already?
just.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
it's
and I
important-
appreciate the comments.
One of the things I did want to note is that in addition to allowing for retail upon site plan and special permit review, it is also stated, provided that such uses are confined to buildings existing on the effective date of this amendment. So for example, there is an existing business there, or was an existing business there, and the part of the change that's proposed is to not allow for expansion within retail, but to reuse spaces for retail purposes. That, I
Right,
just wanted to
including,
point that out.
it says retail sales, including grocery stores, pharmacies, department stores.
But
And
the
that they-
zoning is specific.
But they
to-
would, any of those uses would have to use existing buildings. So this is exactly for like that frame shop that is able to operate out of an existing home, that it would be a light retail use that ideally wouldn't cause tremendous amounts of traffic. I understand that grocery stores are included, but again, if someone likes to open a grocery store in one of those existing homes, if they think that's gonna work, okay? And I think to the walkability piece, I know in consideration of this, I look very closely that we have commercial on the other side of the street. And so the idea is to build commercial near commercial, but just one second.
Yeah.
And then also, in the goal of making things walkable and bikeable, by bringing in commercial tenants that we can then enforce through site plan, that they put in a sidewalk, that can partner very nicely with any grant applications, any cooperation with the village of Manlius to add additional walkability and bikeability considerations there, as opposed to homeowners, which would have to bear the burden through the district, commercial residents who can have it as a piece of the approval process. Basically what we're saying is if there's retail going in, it will include a sidewalk. It will make
Yeah,
it.
but actually, I would actually prefer not to have the sidewalk done because I want less traffic. I want less people, I want less ingrowth and outgrowth. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you.
And thank you for listening.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, John.
Is there anybody else who'd like to make a comment for this?
This is just this on the cannabis.
Yeah, come on.
I just had a question, and I may be coming late to this. Has the police department opined on any additional resources necessary because of the nature of the business?
I'm happy to answer that question. So, part of the goals of the MRTA that was passed in the state legislature is that it imposes an additional tax on the sales that goes directly to the local municipality. We have committed those funds to go towards additional training. Chief, what is the designation for an officer that can do the
DRE.
DRE?
Actually, I have a lieutenant that is also intimately involved with the DRE process for the state right here. If there's any
What
questions.
does DRE stand for?
Drug recognition expert. So it's basically enhanced level of training. that-
Okay, so you're gonna use that revenue to help fund that?
Yeah, and the way that the conversation has gone, I know, I've had a conversation with a lot of residents. The hope here is, right now, people are committing crimes in the town by not going through legal dispensaries. And by opening one up and bringing in additional revenue, not only are we taking action against the legacy market, as the industry likes to refer to it, but we're also increasing our police department's ability to enforce the law and to ideally remove intoxicated drivers off the road as quickly as possible, but to expand our ability to respond to drivers like that, just like, that's really the goal here, is that by participating in the legitimate market, we bring that funding in for our police department, and then also give our residents an opportunity to not commit a crime and instead participate in a local business.
One of the things you should consider, and there's been some research done lately, was on NPR within the last 2 weeks. Because we're in a capitalistic society, the drug dealers essentially lower their price because the taxes on the legal stuff, they can easily undercut it. So taking into consideration, the market will adjust for the pricing that you're gonna have. So you probably won't eliminate illegal sales, but
we'll
it's something to think about.
Take a shot at it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Great. Any other comments? Anyone on Zoom? Okay. So motion to close the hearing?
Mike, you want that email?
Oh, yes, sorry.
Sorry, it came in just as the meeting started.
Oh.
So I received an email, it says, I, along with my wife, would like to restate our firm opposition to allowing CBD sale within 2 blocks of our home and a property we have to pass by daily as we come and go from our residence. There are significant studies as to the harm of recreational use and brain chemistry changes of those who utilize these products. This being in our neighborhood, as well as the fact that this particular parcel of land is surrounded by the village of Manlius, lines by 3 of the 4 sides, and the village residents have voted not to allow sales within the village, make this an unwanted business in the area. I also represent a group of people in the surrounding area who also are opposed to the sale of marijuana products. I'm pleading with the board to vote against the change of zoning, even the allowance of a temporary shop, which has already become more than that in its brick and mortar location. Reverend Dr. John R. Buskey.
Yes.
Come on.
Thank you. My name is Bill Lejour. I live in Fremont on Kendall Drive West. I'm wondering if the board has the ability to steer this retailer to other areas. Route 290, Bridge Street, right in my area, is very underutilized. There's a plaza there that's only about half full, and across the street are empty lots all over the place. If you have the ability, there's a lot of not in my backyard in this location. Steer them to other locations that are easier to work with.
I would say, I would definitely say I've had that conversation with them. I will reiterate that. I do appreciate the suggestion, and we'll see if that can maybe address some of the issues. Okay, anyone else?
I'd like to make a motion to close the building. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. So the public hearing is closed. We don't have a prepared motion, but any further discussion? Would anyone like to make a motion?
Is that to move it forward?
Yeah, just want to see if there's further discussion following the public.
Sure, I think I'm the only one here who literally is in my backyard. I have lived adjacent to the grower showcase during its period of operation. And again, you know, the perils of addiction are well known to me. I worked in the mental health field for 20 years. I share a lot of the same feelings that Mr. Gates previously raised with respect to traffic and issues. And the supervisor and I came to a clear disagreement early on in this process that no, just because there's commercial across the street doesn't mean that the other side of the street is a commercial district. The R in RT stands for residential. It is my home. I live there. However, I had been living adjacent to a transient temporary office space for the time of my time living there. And the grower showcase and the first thing that happened is when we received the application for the permit approval, I called the owner, who's a gentleman in Binghamton, Vestal area, to raise my concerns and tell him that you're gonna get the what for if you wanna open a dispensary in the town of Manlius. You're gonna need to do your homework, you're gonna need to demonstrate competency, responsibility, and responsiveness every single day, or it's just not gonna work. And he has proceeded to go about executing his business plan with real sensitivity to the concerns of the community immediately around the area, and not just me. But he has been very communicative with every member of this board that I think reached out to him. The local affiliates here, the Agrippinos and the folks who have advocated for the business have been very responsive to this board. But more important than that is that it's important that we not get hung up on the fact that the retail we're talking about is cannabis. That is just one of the retail allowances that we have agreed to here, and the seemingly salacious nature of the fact that it's cannabis we're talking about is really not for us to consider here. It's a legal product in New York State. This is not, post-prohibition America. It's 2024. There's plenty of different places we can look at for models of responsible operation, and I would submit that this is one of them. The Just Breed market in the month of December that it was functional was honestly less problematic to me than the Vendetti Insurance Agency that was there for the 2 years prior. There was less traffic, there was less noise, there was more responsive people on site. And the activities of the business were virtually invisible. I was probably a noisier neighbor than the Grover Showcase was because I have a dog. So I wanted to say all that because I'm absolutely gonna vote to allow for this. I see no reason not to. And through the site plan approval and special permit or special use permit requirements in the code, I think we are secure from any of the potential future problems that people have brought to us. And I say this because those were my concerns when we first started on this process. Like, oh, heck no, we're not gonna make this a city property. I don't want a Dunkin' Donuts drive-through next door to my house, which was the next thing down the line if we were to change the zone in that manner. So this has been a very long and arduous, months-long process of sort of winnowing down to what we all as a municipal board will tolerate and what you all as the community will tolerate. And I just wanted to say that before I go ahead and submit my vote in favor of it.
So that would be a motion to.
I will make a motion.
Is there any further discussion from the board?
Well, I just want to say, I appreciate Councilor Nicholson giving us his point of view living there, along with everyone else who spoke, and I think it's important that you said where you were in the beginning of this and where you are now. And I also want to echo the sentiments that it's not a consideration now that it's legal. It's not a consideration of what's being sold there for myself either.
Right.
Because it's the law.
You
It
can
changes.
buy alcohol at gas
Right.
station. You can, this is not post-prohibition America. It's 2024. Sorry.
I just really wanted to recognize that I'm appreciative of the way you framed that for everyone. And for myself, not having had the history of this, when this started, not being on the board.
I just want to make a point of fact that the Village of Manlius residents never voted on the decision regarding cannabis. So it is not permitted in the Village of Manlius, but that is not because there was a vote.
And there was a pretty significant petition passed to push it to be on the
Which
ballot.
is not to say that the neighbors adjacent are not in opposition, because they are. And it's fine.
Yeah, but there are very well neighbors there that are supportive as well, right?
So
Because they never voted, so we don't actually know.
What did the town vote?
Yeah.
No, we did not opt out. That was where the law was passed. An opportunity was given to all municipalities, except for cities, I think, to opt out. And so we did a work session, and we talked about it in a number of meetings, had some good back and forth, but there was never any sense of any majority of people looking for us to opt out.
Thank you.
Okay, so we do have a.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Supervisor, before we do vote on the change of the zone, we do need to do a secret determination.
Great.
the zone.
At this time, does anyone want to designate this action as an unlisted action for seeker purposes? Seeker means State Environmental Quality Review Act purposes, and designate the town of Manlius Town Board as lead agency.
So I would motion to designate Town of Manlius as lead agency for this unlisted action.
Thank you. Second?
No, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm going to run through a series of questions. If I don't, I'm going to run through a series of questions. If I don't hear an answer, I'll assume the answer is no or small impact. And remember, what we're talking about here is just the zone, the change to the zoning law. We're not considering a site plan. We don't have a site plan before us. It's not appropriate for the town board to consider that, not considering a special
And this
permit.
is already RT, it's just changes to RT.
Correct. So this is, the seeker determination is only for the change to the law. Will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulation? Will the proposed action result in a change in the use of intensity of use of land? Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area? Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway?
So I think that's the question that was raised by Mr. Gates. Whether this was significant or not, I think the grower showcase demonstrated that it's not.
And that's relative to the project at hand, not the zone. It's not changing the zone. It's still RT.
Yes.
Correct. But I think you absolutely put a basis forward as to how the prior tenant or the prior owner, the traffic levels were actually higher than it is with the when the grower showcase was going on. Will the proposed action impact existing public-private water supplies, public-private wastewater treatment utilities? Will the proposed action impair the character of important or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources, examples, wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, and fauna? Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health? Based upon the answers provided, does anyone at this time want to make a motion?
Make a motion for a negative declaration.
Thank you.
Second.
So I would just want to make a comment. So seeker is something that feels, I don't want to say silly sometimes, but seeker is meant to be a baseline check on environmental impacts of anything a municipal board might do. And I think, in listening to those, I can completely appreciate how people in this room, people that will watch later, might feel that the answer to those are yes. I can appreciate that. I think what is important is to remember, one, this is about a change to the zoning code, and the change to the zoning code requires that any new uses use existing buildings and existing footprints. Also, that some of the other places where people might say yes to that is important to consider. We have a planning board. They are charged with following the comprehensive plan, ensuring that adequate measures are taken to control traffic, to add to walkability, and to do a lot of what we have been hoping to do through the site plan and special use permit process. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, because I know I've sat through these on the other side before and been like, well, what do you mean? Of course it's yes. But the important part about seeker is that it's not a yes or no, it's a yes or no to small. And so we have put things in place to address a lot of the concerns, and that's where I just wanted to say personally that I feel very comfortable voting yes on this. So any other comments on the seeker process?
I'll just note too that when there actually is a concrete site plan that's before the planning board, they will need to do their own secret determination again at that point, so.
It does seem sometimes like we do run through it fast, but we're anticipating these questions, so we go through this formal process during the meeting, but this is something we've thought of already. So it might seem like we're just like moving it along, but it's because we did. We know the answers before we get here.
Okay, so the motion on the table is to enact local law 2024-3, amending the zoning code to allow and regulate cannabis dispensaries in the RT district, in addition to considering the commercial zone. So all those in favor? Or retail? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Okay, motion carried. Thank you, everybody.
Can we close all the motions we made? Because we had a couple hanging out.
I didn't get a second on that one.
Mike and I said it at the same time, and he let me have it, so that was.
But that was for the seeker, wasn't it?
Yes, so.
No, that was for.
Seeker was, I seconded Sarah.
Yeah, but.
So that was for the negative declaration.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, and
So now the motion that Councilor Nicholson made,
She also
and you seconded.
Yeah.
So all those in favor of adopting the resolution as presented? All right. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Okay. Great. So we will roll right along. Everyone has a resolution. This is to create a quarry commission. So some background here. I want to thank particularly the people in the room, Craig Benson and Tom Kinsella. This has been an ongoing conversation for quite a while now. And I have to applaud both members of the town who came to the table with an open mind and the ability to have hard conversations, some pretty hard conversations, some back and forth. And what we have been able to do is work between a group of residents and a local business that we are very close to reaching a compromise. I want to applaud the process. It took a long time, but it was well worth it. And I think we learned a lot along the way. And so what you see before you is a resolution to create the quarry commission. So this is something that had existed in the past, and it was discontinued due to not necessarily having to exist anymore. So what the goal here is of the quarry commission, out of the gates, it is to mediate if this board adopts a zone change for the Kinsella quarry property to allow for an expansion. The goal of this quarry commission is to hear complaints from the residents, to manage a very extensive vibration monitoring and foundation monitoring program, so that we can learn from what we have happening right in our backyard and then apply that to keep an eye on air quality, water quality, all of these things that I think are initial concerns when it comes to quarrying. And so initially, the commission is pretty straightforward. What I propose is that I would be the chairperson. We would have Craig Dudzak representing the Changing Seasons neighborhood. We'd have Tom Kinsella representing Kinsella Quarries, and then we would have Harris Beach as legal counsel. In the resolution, it includes a request to authorize myself to send an application to the county requesting $10,000 a year for 5 years to fund a vibration monitoring contract, which that contract includes a professional to come to our meetings via Zoom and help us answer those questions. And both parties have agreed that upon who we're hoping to contract with. And so I am looking for further conversation, but also asking the board to consider this resolution. What is important is as soon as this commission would be created, we would set a date for the first meeting. We would go through the normal process of a new commission. And then we would begin the process of intaking complaints, concerns from local residents and processing those. The intent is to meet about 3 times a year, kind of before the season, mid-season, and then after the season. And then the goal of this commission is to provide reports to the town board about quarrying operations, any side effects of quarrying, and just a general report on essentially the data we're collecting that is relevant to the Changing Seasons neighborhood.
So I would like to ask if Mr. Kinsella and Mr. Dunsink have anything they want to say to this before we consider.
Yeah, come on right up.
Yeah, come on up, Tom.
See? What did I say about cooperation?
See, we'll hold hands. No, I think you should have, at least John said he was going to distribute to you what is a working document of where we are in the process, which for lack of giving it a finality says maybe it's 90% or so complete. And as the supervisor has appropriately pointed out, it's been a long process, longer I think than either of us imagined it would have been when we started. But I want to congratulate both the supervisor for his good office in facilitating this, as well as I want to extend my thanks to Tom, who, you know, the one that's kept it moving. Well, we're here to answer any questions you have. And I think that's probably the better place to do this, but no, we're not complete yet, but I think it's within eyesight.
The document you referenced, is that what you're saying is not complete yet? Or
Well,
I have not seen a document.
Okay.
And I don't have a time,
Yeah, so
not
there,
the issue either.
so there is a draft working agreement that they've been working on. I haven't released it yet.
Okay.
But that's something that will be considered, but that's a private agreement between the Changing Seasons neighborhood and Tom Kinsella and Kinsella Quarries. And basically, if everybody remembers, when we considered the 12-acre zone change within the Kinsella Quarry footprint, we had heard quite a bit of feedback from the Changing Seasons neighbors. And the board had essentially said, we would like to see some type of agreement or amendment to the existing settlement agreement. And the document they're referring to is exactly that. It is a new agreement that I believe would supersede the existing settlement agreement that would set terms between the neighborhood and the quarry for any future expansion.
We'll have accurate mapping.
Maybe.
Yeah, well, yes, it will have accurate.
Let's say yes to that.
It's gone, well, there's some reason behind that, but yes, that'll be accurate.
So
The whole application, fine tooth comb.
So I would request, if you would, Supervisor, to distribute that to the other board members so they have an understanding of what it is. It also, I think, is important because it does have some implications for the town, even so far as this resolution for reconstituting the quarry committee. Because in some ways it obligates the town moving further down the road. And so it is an agreement that certainly starts from 2004 agreement that existed with Kinsella and the Changing Seasons neighborhood, and it amends it. And it amends it in some ways, as I say, that brings the town into part of the process.
If there are obligations on the town, is that something that will come back to us to vote on?
I'm trying to think when.
Well, the biggest thing you had mentioned previously, and again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, so you're right here to correct me if I'm wrong. Part of the funding for this was assumed that it would be through a grant that would come through the town, through the county and the legislator, Mark Olson. However, should that not be available, it may become a request upon the town to become part of that funding agent. So yes, that's part of the implication.
We wouldn't be tied to anything, but that's where including that funding for that migration study, or monitoring contract essentially, that's also the reason that it's coming before the board, is because that's coming out of discretionary funds. And
I also think this is designed to inform the board regarding future zone change decisions. So it does have implications for actions that we're taking.
Future zone changes requested by the quarry of the.
Yeah, so we had tabled the previous zone change request for the existing quarry to expand within the berm about 12 acres. And so we had a lot of feedback from the residents. And so there was a settlement agreement. It's something we can dig a lot more into. But the goal here is there's a lot of moving pieces, and creating the commission and allowing the town to request those funds will allow kind of everything else to sort itself out. And then the goal of the quarry commission is to inform the board. So for example, when the zone change comes before the board, the quarry commission will weigh in and give some feedback with representatives of both the neighborhood and the board.
Right, so committing to request funding doesn't commit us to funding it.
Exactly.
But this resolution is, however, a responsible product of our comprehensive plan. I mean, there's a quarry, there was a quarry study group, there's obviously continuing and ongoing interest from neighbors in the community about this subject, and this is a responsible step to take to make sure that also whatever board comes along next continues in a formal process.
Like to say, the learning from this is going to inform the next neighborhood for the next application, that we do not have to start at square one.
Little history of the quarry monitoring committee. So that was formed back in 2004, I guess it was. And there was myself, member from the neighborhood, and Barbara Rivette from the town of Manlius Environmental Council. And we would meet, we have a process now where if there's any complaints come in, we file the complaints. The complaints are filed with the town, they're in the committee. So that exists. So what we've done is we took the past actions and it became just repetitive. We reviewed the complaints. We made sure everything was in compliance at all the meetings. But the neighbors never got a response back. They never knew what happened with their complaints. They weren't getting that feedback to say, hey, I felt this or I complained about that. So we're putting in provisions that they get a feedback. We've got some outside people coming in, studying it to get that expert. So we've taken our past experience and tweaked them a little bit and hopefully to be, you know, more open and communicating
Yeah,
better.
that we learned that at the public meeting we had here in the summertime, that the loss of trust was really having to do not what you were or were not doing, but the lack of timely response is what we heard from the three presidents.
And that's where some of the town comes in. Those, there are, you know, avenues for them to, you know, if there's a problem to complain, and they are recorded and they are filed and everything, but we're just making sure they know that they're being addressed and looked at. And
a part of this too is, rather than having, complaints move through either party, we will be setting up an online form and producing a paper form for people to, submit. But the complaints will come to the town, they will be stored at the town, and then the quarry commission will analyze those. And we're expanding it too, for concerns about damage to people's properties, so that people can, you know, for example, if someone has a foundation and they think the quarrying is causing a crack to widen or appear, they can file a complaint ideally with a photo, and then if they say, oh, it just blasted again, I'll file another thing. We'll start building timelines and data so that this board, when there are questions of, does it affect residences nearby? Does it affect the air quality? We will have someone, the quarry commission, to go to and get answers to those questions.
So to just give you a little bit more context of what else this has included, some of which has already started, is we've had air quality monitoring sites up since last fall, which monitor the air quality, and we can compare them to the site that the EPA has operating in East Syracuse, so that there are variations that are generated by the quarry's operation. It would give us a baseline to compare them against. And that's been operating for what, 8 months now, close to 8 months.
Who funds that?
Well, we funded it through the neighborhood. We put up the monitors and it's now on a public site, so there is no continuing expense to it. And I don't want to put words in Tom's mouth, but Tom said he's probably going to put some up too on the other side of the quarry, because prevailing winds may affect what the readings are at different sites around the periphery of the quarry. Some of the seismic monitoring would in part be confirmatory of monitoring Kinsella is already doing. But in addition to that, there is a process called, and I love this word, it's called crack monitoring, but it's not what you think.
That's what the police were calls theirs.
That's right. The crack monitor has to do with the effect of what happens to a crack over time. And the monitoring for that would have to be over a long enough duration that you could rule out environmental effects. So for example, because a blast occurred and the crack seems to widen, doesn't mean that, you know, what happens with rainfall, the freeze thaw cycles, whatever else. So that's another part, that's another element that again will help us to either determine a cause or at least to rule out that this is an effect of operations from the quarry. So those are the kinds of things that it includes.
I think it's great. Thank you both for doing it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
So I do think that this sounds great. I just had not heard of this even happening. I didn't realize these conversations were happening at all. And I don't feel like I've had enough time. I'd like to just read, like I haven't had enough time to read through this or understand the implications. So can we hold off on, I feel like I need a lot more information before I would feel comfortable voting on it. And I think Councilor Mashi, I think bringing him up to speed a little bit more on the history of the quarry, like that was helpful, I think, for the context, but there's so much information. Is there, would there be any?
I don't want to act on like my initial, I find it's not the right thing to do is act on your initial feelings, and they're great, everything that it sets out to do. But when I hear that there's history and that there's been conversations and studies, whatever's been happening, I haven't been included in them, but I'm being asked to vote on it. I just would like to get a little more information, and if the board so chooses to vote, I'm gonna abstain, not because I disagree or agree with the project, just because I wanna be more well educated on, yeah, you know, Mr. Kinsella said there's a committee. do we need a commission? If there's a committee, has that committee been disbanded?
It doesn't exist.
Okay, so these are things I would need to know if I'm asked to create a commission and when I'm told there's a pre-existing committee, what happened to it and just.
So would you like, so we have a choice to extend the vote to the next meeting, but what would we do in between that to bring people up to speed?
So what I would request is that, so I know you two, does anyone else feel the need, do you want some more information about this?
I feel like I've gotten caught up already. I would be comfortable moving forward with the commission because I think what it achieves is continued dialogue, gathering of data and communicating that information, which I think is necessary for sound decisions in the future. So I'm comfortable.
So what I will say is that whatever happens, if anyone would like to make a motion and second it, what we'll do is we will schedule some time that the attorney is available, and I can walk everyone through the history of this from when the first zone change came up, through the conversations about the settlement agreement. I mean, we'll need a good hour to get through everything.
Yeah.
But whatever happens.
That's fine, yeah, if it passes,
you guys
I support it. I'm just saying, I just don't want to blindly vote on something.
I do want more time to review this document, because it does sound productive. I don't feel comfortable voting on it tonight, and so I request that my colleagues not make a motion until I feel more prepared to vote on it.
I think you can abstain, I'm gonna make a motion.
So let me
Motion to
make this
adopt.
offer to the board, and I speak for myself, I don't know. If in your consideration and review of documents, if you'd like me present to provide any information, to answer questions, I don't know.
I'm definitely available. Yeah. We've been doing, I think it's like 9 o'clock on like Tuesdays in the small conference room, so I will coordinate that. with everyone.
Like having regular meetings with them on 9 o'clock on Tuesday?
Yeah, pretty much, but we'll find a time to.
Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
if you're okay with it, I'm gonna make a motion to adopt a resolution creating a party commission as described, for the finance.
I will second.
Okay, so all those in favor?
Alyssa?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 votes in favor. Any opposed? 1 vote opposed. All those abstaining? Okay, right. So do you have that, Karen?
I do.
Thank you. Okay, so with that, the quarry commission is established, and I will be communicating with the county, about the grant funding that we're seeking, and I will, work with, the two of you. We'll have a session to sit down, and then I will also send out that, working agreement that they have, so that everybody can get familiar with it. And then I will do my best to provide updates to the board, through this process. Okay.
Thank you.
Next up, will the Skyway Engineering RFP?
So, as you know, we're working on the Sky Ridge, the re-engineering of the water system, with the existing water district. We've been in contact with the town attorney, and have, funded through, Assemblyman Sturpey. But we don't have specific designs. So what this motion is to authorize the publication of an RFP for engineering services for the Sky Ridge Water District infrastructure improvements. That would be, and the details of that will be available at the town hall and will be available online, and the opening date will be June 5th. So beginning May 1st, I knew there was one. Beginning May 1st, interested parties will be invited to examine, obtain printed copies of the request for proposal package at the office of town clerk, and the bid opening will be June 5th for the engineering component of the water infrastructure project. That is my motion.
Any questions on that?
Second it.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Councilman Nicholson, update on deer management.
Sure, this will be very, very brief. And later in the year, perhaps in September, I'll give you a little bit of more glossy charts and graphs version. Afterwards, I have the ability to survey the town residents again about their observed impacts of deer in the community. So we don't have that yet. We want more vehicle accident data. But the preliminary report from the USDA on the culling operation, which again, every year we say this, is but one part of the deer management plan, is the shooting part. So this year, the culling program pulled 69 deer from the herd, which is the exact same number it pulled last year, producing approximately 1,917 pounds of venison, which were delivered to donation, providing up to 7,668 meals to the local community. And there was a challenge. One of the properties that had been used in the village of Fayetteville since the beginning of the program was off limits this year. So that is possibly having some impact on the number that can be pulled. So that 69 number matching last year, we'll see what next year yields. We're again continuing to try and find more appropriate opportunities that call from town properties. Very challenging, and again, to the members of the public who have issues with deer and deer-related damage to their property, it's not as simple as please come and shoot deer in my neighborhood. That's not an option. So the deer management plan is a very sophisticated tool to help hopefully bring down the herd broadly. They are animals that move, so we intersect with their path at various places strategically to try and limit their movements and remove parts of the herd as best as possible. And this year is another success. So with that, I'll submit the USDA portion of the deer committee for consideration. And again, in September, we'll have a more pretty notes and graphs with the other aspects of impact.
So just, the Councilor Cruz will step down for just a second, and I don't, we're holding on to anyone for the rest of the agenda. I'm gonna go ahead and dive right into the number 17 on the agenda, feasibility study on the new municipal building. As we discussed last meeting, I have put together a presentation on the current state of the municipal building and the police department, along with the 2018 feasibility study. I have asked Deputy Town Manager Jake Blythe and our police chief Jason Fuselia, as well as some of our command staff, we have got 2 slides and they're labeled some context. So we'll have them speak a little bit to us so we can kind of contextualize what is going on, and then I promise, try to move through this fairly expeditiously. Okay. So, Town Manlius Municipal Building. So we'll just dive right in. So in 2018, the town commissioned a feasibility study. The subject or the main concerns that led to that study were these 3 items. The town Manlius Police Department is in the village of Manlius in the former Manlius Elementary School. The building needs repairs, has no air conditioning, and is reflective of a first-class police department. 2, safety concerns for the public when court hearings are held at the town offices. 3, concerns for the safety of town employees working in town offices. While the work has been done in the police department, these 3 issues remain, as well as new issues we've seen. Again, this was commissioned in 2018, so some things have changed since then. And so I tried to pull out some pretty key points. The feasibility study is available on the website if anyone would like to go through all 37 pages. But basically, this is just a snippet of it. What I wanted to point out too are 2 things here. When this building was built in the 60s and it was expanded in the 80s, but in the 60s, this building was built for 19,351 residents. And as of the 2010 census, it was 32,370. That number has since increased to 33,712 residents. And at the time, the villages all had their own independent police departments. And what really caught my eye on this piece was that state and federal laws such as ADA, work facilities requirements, OSHA, EPA, labor laws, numerous labor laws, and air quality requirements, they did not exist when this building was first conceived and constructed. And so that really, I think, drives a lot of the conversation about a new municipal building and some of the justification for it. So again, I won't necessarily go through the whole slide, but this talks about the departments within the town needing to allow public employees, visitors, the general public to use the building and to move about the building in a way that is constructive to what we try to get done here. We also have, kind of a holdover in our back clerk's office with the, assessment and tax, where, departments are interestingly divided, and combined, that really, looks to make the best use of the space we have, and that's something I did want to underline through this whole process as well, is that the town has done an incredible job of squeezing out every square inch we can of this building and the police department, and that this is not us saying, hey, we're getting close to running out of space, but we are actively, as we hire people, and engage, in various professional services, we are strictly running out of places to put it. We have some interns that are working with us, and it's not uncommon that the intern doesn't have a place to sit other than the board.
Which can be very uncomfortable.
It can be. So just to highlight, kind of the inefficient layout of town hall, I think we talk about this a lot with, infrastructure, where we sit back and we go, wow, I can't believe they designed it this way. And it's because we have the benefit of hindsight. And when you look at the actual layout of the building, which is, unless you get a visual or an aerial view, I don't think anyone really understands what the building looks like. And so it really does itself no favors with the current layout. Offices are disjointed and the flow for residents is poor. That's something we definitely learned a little bit more about during the special election, in that, you know, we were trying to file people and we were using, if 3% of the building to line people up. You know, we don't have the ability to be a functioning polling site. Granted, for a special election, there was an incredible turnout that no one saw coming.
It's not good, it's not ADA compliant. Correct?
Yes. And this, specifically, this layout does highlight the lack of an elevator in the building, which is something that, I think the Deputy Town Manager will speak to a little bit. But that does cause pretty significant issues when folks are trying to come to Town Hall and just take care of their business. We have a small parking lot up front, we have a larger parking lot out back, and if you park in the wrong one, we're either asking employees to run up and down the stairs to serve you, or we're asking you to go back to your car and come around to the right entrance. So just some major issues. I ended up needing a little extra space. Utilities in the building are completely out of date, expensive, and difficult to maintain. That also sets us back quite a bit in our ambitious sustainability goals within the town. The building is not ADA compliant. We are grandfathered in, but that, you know, just being able to not follow the law is maybe not a great reason to continue that. And having our services split between 2 floors causes havoc for residents with mobility issues. In particular, the feasibility study also looked very closely at the courtroom. And so I have it a little bit later on, but there was a study done in 1999 about the inadequacies of both our police department and the courtroom. Right now, I've got some photos later on, but you'll really start to understand how out of compliance our courtroom is. And the boardroom, it's not sufficient to generally the level of engagement that we've seen, especially including our ability to work in hybrid meetings. You know, we have a system here that works. Could it be a lot better? It absolutely could. The question is, how much of an investment are we making in equipment that may or may not be usable in a future building, and things like that. So, you know, when we think about one of the main things that the town board does is holding public meetings and giving people space to join us. And so, having a boardroom, which could also double as a courtroom, that fits the size of our engagement and the size of our community, I think is really important. Maintenance gets more and more challenging in the building each year. I don't understand it completely, but there is, the heating system has some computer type component that my understanding is not available. So we are trying really hard to not get in the situation where we are simply without heat. We've lost heat throughout the building for almost an entire day. There's we had a court session where it was sweltering down there. With a leaking roof. We have insufficient space for employees, some pretty serious security concerns, especially as we kind of reflect on last year and some of the things that happened. And then a lack of the facilities for the recreation department. We've got a great recreation department, and everything they do happens in someone else's space.
And the department may expand with some community projects.
So then I focus on the courtroom. I grabbed a picture that I think really kind of encapsulates the current issue. Those 4 chairs in the back there, that is for prisoners that are coming into court. There is no separation, there is no clean way to bring people in there without exposing the public to them. And we've seen some horror stories in neighboring municipalities and how bad it can get. And my hope is that we can address this as soon as possible so that we don't end up in a situation where we're regretting not having acted. So, Deputy Town Manager, can I come up and?
You want me to stand?
No, you can, you're
Speak up though, so people can hear.
Sure. I'll start with just some structural issues that we have on the exterior. As John said, the roof needs to be replaced. We have leaks in several areas, in the tax office, in the clerk's office, right above the counter, in the supervisor's office. I don't know if you guys have been in there recently, along the wall, because you can see where it's sticking on the wall. And the roof, we have like drip cans, oil, baking pans above the ceiling tiles to contain some of these leaks. Like, that's how bad it is. Safety outside, the sidewalks cracked, damaged, like it's like crumbled, the pavement. We've had residents fall because you can twist your ankle. We've taken, notes, incident reports, I guess you would say. The pooling in the parking lot, when it rains, especially in the winter time, that freezes. And you can see residents, like they're slipping, on that ice. The windows in the front lobby, I know some of the windows at Town Hall were replaced. Those windows were not replaced. So the heat loss and heat gain is tremendous. Because they were with the original building from the 60s. And then the interior, we have outdated electrical. The breakers trip when you run two appliances at the same time. So if you're in the break room, you can't run the microwave and the toaster at the same time, you will trip the breaker. With the microwave, you can't run it for more than 1 minute on high, you will trip the breaker. We have to go in and flip everything back on. And then Chris, our maintenance guy, also stated that the water pump motor is deficient. Our HVAC system is also severely outdated, as John stated.
Gotta take a look around.
Right. Most of the building can't control the interior temperature. So sometimes you'll have the court, like where the court clerks are, or even the court itself, it's 80 degrees, while where Ann sits and recreation, it's freezing. So what happens is, you gotta run space heaters, which those are a fire hazard.
And you trip the breaker.
Exactly, you better not run that microwave. Just to get your office to a comfortable temperature, you need a space heater. And in the court, again, the HVAC system, you can either run that or have a meeting. You can't do both because it's too loud. And then as William and John stated, handicap accessibility, like we're not ADA compliant, and where I sit, watching residents, God, I close my eyes sometimes trying to get down the stairs. Yes, they can drive around, but they've already spent 20 minutes trying to get in the building with their walker. They just want to get downstairs, and you don't have elevator. It's painful to watch. Sometimes we have rodent issues, and Earl has said it's from gaps in the doors, like it's something to do with food. So we have crickets that are this big that you'll find jumping across your desk. You'll have a mouse running across your foot, like Rec can tell you, and that's because of the gaps. We have a lack of storage for records. We have the garage. We have a storage / maintenance room, but that's where the leak is. Like, it'll go down the wall. We've had records get damaged from water, just from leaks. And then building and court security, I took this from the feasibility study. It says there's not enough space for people to wait prior to going into court. The hallways become crowded and bring up security concerns. The space is also undersized, the court itself. It's not large enough to accommodate a room at full capacity on busy nights. And then I can email this to you guys as well, but there was a security assessment done by Unified Court that states that the court is out of compliance. Like it's very much out of compliance. I can pass this down for you guys, and I can email that as well. I mean, we've implemented some security measures like the cameras, but that helps after the fact. Like, it doesn't help us if something's going on right then and there. And then when, folks walk into the building, they have full access to us. Like, especially, I mean, I can talk about myself, but like when somebody walks in, right in the supervisor's office, I'm the first one they see. So that's also, concerning. I'm just going through my notes here. Going back to court, there's been damage to the building after court, the restrooms, the urinals, we've had PVC smeared on the walls after court. And then again, general building safety, I don't like how accessible we are. Because anyone can walk in to any one of our offices, and had a level 3 sex offender just wander into her office one day. So, and I know some folks think, it'll never happen here, but stuff does happen, so.
Thank you.
That's our concerns here. You're welcome.
So we'll move to consideration of the police department. I just included an aerial photo. We are in some space within the village of Manlius that was previously an elementary school. So it's a valiant reuse of space. But one of the things here that I'll highlight from the feasibility study is that the police were temporarily placed here in 1985 and have been in the space ever since. This was following the consolidation of the 3 village police departments. And again, originally in 1985, the goal was to serve as a temporary facility for the police department.
And not a free temporary facility.
Yes, we
leased
do.
this from the village man.
Yes, indeed. And so the building is in need of repairs. I did strike out that it has no air conditioning. That has been remedied within recent memory. Non-ADA compliant in many areas, and it is not reflective of a modern day police department. And like I said, in addition, the town rents the space from the village of Manlius. This does add some complexity as we do not have full control over the facility. So one other thing I really wanted to highlight here is the inequity in town coverage. This is, I think it's the 2nd page or 3rd page in the feasibility study. So just as a way, I know it's a little small to read, but basically, because the police department is located in the south part of town, you see in the south an average response time or travel time of about 8.3 minutes. You look at the central area within the town, it's 9.6. You look to the village of Manoa, and it's 15.3 minutes. And when you look to the far north, the average is 19 minutes to travel, with the highest being 20 minutes. And so the hope would be in a new facility where we would bring things together, we would also centrally locate within the town to essentially balance this inequity in response times and travel times. And also too, to make sure the police department is centrally located, because the police department puts on some fantastic programming. They'll check your car seats. They'll, the list is long, and the ability to kind of put those things on without having to piggyback off of a village event or some other event within the town is very nice and accessible to all of our residents. So limitations for the current police department, I referenced this study before. In 1999, we engaged to form a needs assessment study that focused on the town of Manlius police facilities and court. And this report concluded the existing police facilities in 1999 and court could not be renovated cost effectively and could not provide adequate space for the police department or the court administration requirements. And just another piece is that additional government regulations and demand on the police department and the court administration over the past 19 years further support the 1999 needs assessment study. This includes the overwhelming addition of technology to how these departments operate. And again, this was a study from 1999. So think about where we were technologically in 1999, and the study didn't consider any of those changes since then. Highlight here the lack of space. We've got storage containers that are used to hold mostly records, but a number of other things. And this is just so that we have enough space to store everything that the police department needs to function. It presents additional security concerns. They're not within the building footprint. They are freestanding. And just to further highlight the lack of space, you can see the tight corridors. I'm sure everyone can remember when we had fully equipped police officers here, laden with many pounds of gear, trying to move through a facility that's so tightly packed. And you can see here on the right, the booking area. This is not good. I mean, we're talking about, as if you had a efficiency apartment where you're opening a door, taking a step back, opening another door. And one of the main concerns I have in particular is the safety of our officers and inmates. By not having adequate space to allow for space between people through what happens there, really is pretty dangerous. And modern best practices simply require more space in purpose-built facilities. You know, we are very proud of the CALIA certification, and in order to live up to that certification, you know, really looking for a facility that's gonna meet the needs. And also too, with the current staffing studies that we've looked at, you know, there is a recommendation to expand the force from 38, which was last year, to 44 in 2025 or 2026. So as we look to that expansion, you know, we are already working with limited space. It's a very similar issue to what we're dealing with here at the town, where, again, 10 years ago, when we had fewer employees, there was space for everybody. And we are simply dealing with the natural growth following the growth of our town and the complexity of the services we provide alongside that without being able to expand our footprint. So I know you guys have a little bit to talk to us about, so if you could just add a little context.
Well, thank you, Mr. Supervisor, and I thank the town board for allowing us to have an opportunity to talk with you. Also, I appreciate very much that so many of you, and I'm looking forward to hosting you also when we do this, have come through the organization, have seen the building for your own eyes. You know, that when you talk, first and foremost, you talk about, you know, our pride with being a internationally accredited law enforcement organization through the Commission on Accreditation of Law Enforcement Agencies. I cannot recall a CALIA assessment report that has not identified our largest issue as an organization as our facilities, time and time again. And you see it for yourselves, the undersized rooms, the undersized hallways, the lack of storage. I have shipping containers across the back portion of my lot, which I also need for impound and for other issues that are, our property room, our property and evidence room has never been able to change size. So we have a hard time, you know, being able to stay within the norm within that. And you know, the strict guidelines that we have to follow. We do it, but it's very difficult. And when things become very difficult, they become inefficient. And when things become inefficient, I spend more money. And that means you spend more money. And those, you know, and those inefficiencies, also the lack of connection between, I think, the police department and the other town departments. There's synergies that are met when we come together. We spend a lot of resources in trying to shore those things up between the two different buildings. But really looking at it from the simple fact that it was a temporary location at the time, and now we have so much more. And I think you did a fantastic job at highlighting some of those difficulties that we have. You know, just from an IT perspective, we've had to eliminate office space that we really need in order to house our ever-growing IT infrastructure. And when we talk about the processing room, critical situation, and it's directly affecting, you know, so much of what we do with our interactions that, for the most times, yes, there is somebody on the, you know, being processed of an arrest, but there are times in which that it can be difficult, and the footprint that's in there compounds the difficulty. We have worked very well, and thank you, and also the Village of Manlius, to eke out as much as we can get. But having been operating that facility in one way or another since 1986, oh goodness, that I can tell you that really the time in which that this became such a point of the facility problems was 1997. And from 97 through to 2000 and I believe around 5 or 6, this was on the front end of so much of what the organization was attempting to do, working with the town in understanding the shortcomings and the issues. So this is not a new issue. This is a continued issue that we keep, you know, finding to become more complicated as time goes on. And I'd just like to introduce my Operations Division Commander, Captain Tina Stanton, who has been with the organization 30 years. And also my Lieutenant Greg Snyder, who's the Assistant Operations
Commander, sorry.
And they're also here to be able to acknowledge a few things. Tina, would you like to, do you have anything you'd like to say?
Supervisor, you mentioned the fact that we were looking to add officers to our department. Could one of those officers be a female? We don't have room in our locker room to put another locker for a female officer, which is a problem. Yes, we did update the HVAC system, thank you very much. However, the men's locker room continues to be a balmy 40 degrees in the wintertime, which is not ideal. And as a result, we do have mold in all of our vents, which is not great for us to be breathing in. It was an elementary school, so therefore the toilets are rather small, which can be rather difficult. We are not ADA compliant, which is also an issue for us. That's just the tip of the iceberg as to what we're dealing with. The chief mentioned storage. Some of our records are in the Averti trailers, which are not climate controlled. And those are documents that we need to keep, but we don't have any other place to put them but out there. So it is an issue.
Every 3 years, we're required to do a staff inspection. We take an internal look at our organization, and we basically create a work team of civilian members and volunteers and members from all different ranks and such, and we review so many pieces of what we do and how we do it. And a large part of during the staff inspection is focused on building and grounds responses. We're doing that right now. It's our time to do that. Our previous one that finished in 2020 for our use in 2021 is 12 pages. I completed a homicide in less than 12 pages in a report. That's significant. We have 12 pages of things in which we're identifying how do we manage these issues and what we can do versus what are just not able to do. So we triage things very carefully. We have, I believe, have made this work for as long as we can, but we're significantly behind the eight ball. And as you mentioned, community. Our police department is a community-based law enforcement organization. We feel very strongly about our connection with our community. It's very difficult for us to do things within the agency. We have to look to other places and other, areas in order for us to put a lot of things on and do the things that we like to do, like even holding meetings or bringing our public in. And sometimes that can be difficult. Greg, do you have anything?
Yeah, just a couple of practical things for sure. Again, I manage our property and evidence, and again, that room has been, was never ventilated properly in the first place, right? Holding controlled substances and things like in that space was never a good thing from the get-go, but we're doing the best we can in space. Evidence in a Averti trailers is definitely not a place generally to keep it, but we don't have a choice. Some of those are some of the practical things. I know we have a pretty substantial fleet for our police department, and we have a mechanic in order to manage that, who unfortunately right now is out. And that's been seeing the value of him is ever shining with him being out. And the reality is his space to work is completely inadequate. He has no ability to lift vehicles up, so he's doing everything from laying underneath them in a way that he shouldn't have to. So that's something that's critical to managing the fleet that we have. But then some of this comes down to even some of the less physical spaces that, because we're a tenant and we don't own our structure, we're very limited in what we can afford or what makes sense to do to improve our building. And again, the ever-changing climate of policing right now, morale in departments is a huge thing. And the reality is we're competing with every other agency out there for who the best qualified candidates are, because they're becoming fewer and fewer. And just a building that people can take pride in working in and coming to is a critical thing. And we're even limited, even throwing up paint on a building that we don't own, it's sometimes a tough budgetary decision, right? And so things like that, being able to have kind of, an identity as an organization is something that we just really can't do anymore in the space that we're in. It's just limiting in that capacity. And so that's one of those things, it's not as tangible as the square footage, but it matters, especially more and more now as we're trying to maintain, a quality staff. That's a critical thing. So I think some of those are some of the more even not tangible, but they're felt. For sure.
Yeah, a quality staff requires a professional space. We do the best we can with what we have right now, but it's ways off.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll wrap this up pretty quick. So where can we go? I've been working with our town manager and our town attorney in conversations with Twin Shores. They own the southern half of the old quarry site across from town center. Just on this map, you're looking at the northern parcel, labeled parcel 5, parcel 4, which is a much smaller parcel, and parcel 3, which is 0.74 acres, right there with frontage on North Birch Street. Basically, we've been having really productive conversations about these parcels. The current site that's being considered is somewhere in that 7 to 8 acre range for development of a new municipal building, bringing the town hall and the police department together. Again, the hope here is we can reduce the liability of paying rent on one of our facilities and build something that's purpose-built, that's future-oriented. We have worked with some of our engineering staff along with the owner, to look at feasibility for putting the building the size that we need on this site. This site does provide some challenges, but it also, the location of this site being so centrally located to, when you consider the population distribution through the town, being able to move from pretty far south to just about midway, will provide quite a bit of value to not only our departments and our staff, but also to the residents. Also in conversations, this property, all the way up to the canal, has about 62 acres of wetlands that are a liability for current owners. And they have discussed the potential to include that in as a donation to the town of 62 acres of wetland. That does abut directly to the Erie Canal, also to the village of Fayetteville. It could potentially serve as a location for the first town park, which we do not have any parks. Also, as we look towards our goals in the comprehensive plan of walkability, connectability, greenways, blueways, all these different things, this is a real opportunity to take control of a otherwise useless piece of property to anybody who wants to build something there for a commercial purpose, and turn it into something that is a huge asset to the town. And also too, in the long term, the town, if we look to leverage wetlands to provide some type of recreation facility, walking paths, whatever it is, we have a lot more flexibility in what we can get done there, rather than anybody who's working from the private sector. So just to pull out a feasibility study, there's just some numbers here, but basically the way that we look at it is the number really comes down to about 40,000 square feet. That's what in 2018 was recommended. Obviously, some things have changed since then. Also taking into consideration the site that is available, we would probably look to up that, but not too much. But also we want to make sure that whatever we're doing has the ability for expansion if needed. We had a discussion earlier today about some other municipalities that will simply build an MP4 and then, leave it a little rough and then move into it over time. But we're trying to look at opportunities like if we were to put, a third story on the building, we build a half of it with the ability to expand in the future, and other ways that we can build the right size building that we need now, but not back ourselves into a corner where we are stuck with something that doesn't work for us in 25 years, and to try and build something here that gives us longevity into the future. And then also too, to some of the concerns of the police department, the addition of all these different types of spaces, like a Sally Port that fits the needs of our community, that fits the needs of our department. A lot of opportunities on the table, and I just like it because this is obviously a very rough sketch of how things would be laid out. But to be able to see kind of our main functions all paired together off of a main lobby, I can confirm what the deputy town manager was saying of, sometimes people are just confused. They show up here thinking, they show up at the front door thinking they go on a court, and then we gotta send them downstairs and then back to the stairs. They show up to here thinking that maybe this is the police department, and it's not the police department. And so bringing operations together will have immense benefits for the staff, and I think, also provide a lot of opportunities, for growth within all of our departments. And so I just included this as a conceptual layout. Where we're looking at right now is ideally, we kind of have a basement level that opens up to the back, kind of a half basement that would allow for the police department to have adequate space that they need, in addition to space for maintenance on vehicles, for the sally port, so that inmate transfers can be much more safe. And then we would look to a main floor that has a general lobby and waiting area. Rather here, where it's a little bit spread out and a little lax direction, I think, for a lot of folks coming in, the goal would be to make it so that there's a much more centralized area where when people come in and they don't know who they need to speak to, rather than having to pop into an office door that's open and ask where they're going, it'll be clear that, hey, these are the services you're here that you need. And we can also provide much better suited office space to all of our town departments that'll allow for further collaboration, shared services in printers, in any other equipment that is used between the departments, everybody having access to it, but then also being able to provide private areas for more sensitive things like a marriage license or heated discussion about a building permit, to allow for us to segment out the needs of our residents into spaces that are purpose-built for them. And again, to, the expansion of the clerk's office, or really the main vestibule area, that was in the 80s. So best practices of the 80s versus best practices of 2024, that's a pretty big gap that I think we have a lot of potential. So this is for questions of the board. I know this went a little longer than I wanted it to, but this is my goal was to make it clear for the board, the residents, everybody to understand the situation we're in, to clearly communicate some of the challenges we face, and then also to kind of introduce the idea of moving forward with Twin Shores if that deal can come to something that the board will have time to review, obviously, and consider, but that is something that is in the process and has yielded some pretty great results. So any questions from the board on that?
I don't have a question, but I do want to say that the meeting tonight is kind of demonstrative of the inefficiencies of this building. When we have to watch our taxpayers and residents sit there and constantly turn their head to look and see what you did a great job, I think, putting together that presentation. Thank you for that. But, you envision a place where they can come and sit comfortably and be able to see, and then we can see, and speak to the people. And as far as the police department, and I thank the chief for taking me through and seeing what it looks like now. It's been several years since I've been in it. And prior, as a professional firefighter with the Manlius Fire Department, I've been in it. And actually, one of your pictures is what pops into my head anytime anybody talks about the PD, because Manlius FD is the first due EMS response when somebody in their custody has a medical issue, and going into that holding to treat that patient causes a bit of anxiety for the EMS personnel. If you don't know when that door opens, it swings this far from the desk, and you put that, it's you, and they're usually on this side of the door. You get in and they can sneak over and come to your aid, God forbid, something happens to you as a responder while treating, their detainee. So I'm all in support for this. How we get there is a plan that needs to happen in a more community. It's one of those crickets, I think it's.
I'm cute. Yeah.
So I did have a question. Elaine would always ask, have we ever done a study to see, just as a baseline, what it would cost to bring all of our facilities up to standard? Like, do we have a number?
So we've priced out elevators and things like that, but where we're at now is it's not that we have enough space and we have to make it work for us. It's that simple, like that is compounding with all those other issues, is we've simply run out of space. And I did reference a 1999 study. I'm trying to get my hands on it exactly. 1999 study did say that there was no cost efficient way to expand the police department or the court. And so.
I mean, it definitely anecdotally to me seems like it makes, I just know Elaine always wanted that, and so I would be remiss if I didn't represent her this evening, because I know if she's watching from home, she's screaming. And where's the study? I wanna know how much it would
I'm
cost.
trying to get my hands on the 1999 study, and I know we're looking, there's a number of studies that have happened. I'm trying to collect those as quickly as possible, so we have some of that to look through. And that's, that's part of this conversation. But that's where this was an opportunity to kind of take everybody through and just make it clear that, if you're a resident that shows up here, one time a year to pay your taxes, one time a year to come to a board meeting, maybe one time to get your dog license, that you really don't see kind of the actual building, the actual struggles that they're facing. So I will do everything I can to get those studies in front of the board.
John, who created the diagram of the layout and
So that was, I forget exactly who, but that was from 2018 feasibility study.
2018, okay.
King.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, because another consideration is educational space, so an opportunity for, work group meetings, but also civic education and some other kinds of things we might like to do, so.
And I know the conversation with town staff too is looking to have a facility for the recreation department to provide programming in. Whether that's a smaller space that's, purpose built to meet their needs, or if it's more of a community room that has access to possibly a kitchen. We're looking at other segments of the population that are not currently being served by a recreation department and trying to find ways to serve those folks. So a little flexibility would be really great there.
I had to fight our town attorney for an office a few weeks ago.
We didn't know. Oh, the table was gone and a desk was in,
Yeah,
you're like, we can work in
nice.
this. But that brings up another point, as a town councilor, when you look how many of us there are, that you're basically left to doing your work at home, and myself, I'm not comfortable bringing public documents home and being in charge of making sure that they don't get wet or whatever. We should have a place to keep them here publicly. If somebody needs to access them, they get a call from Carrie, they're in the counselor's office and they're in that drawer, and you can access them right away. And especially, most of us work full-time jobs during the day, if you can't get a hold of us, and it's urgent that you need those documents.
But there's literally
you
no
can get
space
them.
here.
There's no space at all.
So then that makes it harder for us to be, we've gotten feedback from employees in town hall that they feel like the town councilors aren't really engaged. And I have shared personally that it's because I don't have anywhere to work when I come here. So the building itself has kept me from being able to come here, and then if I'm coming and I try to make around and wave to everyone, it's just not set up easily or well. To go down to the recreation department and go in there, it's if you don't have a purpose, it's kind of weird to just pop in. It's just not set up for a conducive, collaborative environment, and there's nowhere for us to go.
And we don't want to be intrusive, right? We want to go say hi and see how everybody is, but if one person takes a phone call in an office, you tend to not go in and say hi to people because you can hear, and you don't want to disrupt, their service to our residents, so it's very
So
much
I
a
think
problem.
we'd be better at our jobs too, if we had some.
That's great. All right, so my total time, we'll keep moving forward on this agenda. I do thank everybody for their attention to that. That's something that, we've been having a lot of conversations about. Happy to see some solid concrete steps moving forward. So next up on the agenda, appointment of the secretary to the police committee. We have a motion prepared.
Great, yeah, as you may recall, one of our long-term employees made an announcement tonight. That created a vacancy, and so earlier today, the police committee met and we discussed and have the full support of 100% of the committee to appoint Carrie Gelding to take on that seat, as she is now the town's clerk. She is an employee of the town, and so we would seek the town board's approval to appoint her to that position moving forward. The next scheduled meeting is June 26th, so we need to have a decision well before that. I think we can do it tonight.
To make that motion?
I'd like to make that motion to appoint Carrie Gelding as secretary for the Town Manlius Police Committee.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Congratulations again.
Welcome to more work.
So, the other thing we have here, we had a really great meeting, with some of the town staff and members of the tree commission. And so we have, kind of looked at how the budget for the tree commissions work over time and made some adjustments. We have some prepared motions here to essentially move monies out of the DA fund for the highway department and move it into the general fund to serve the tree commission. It's been parked in the DA because, well, highway was plant some trees. And so we're just trying to formalize that and also give the tree commission a little bit better ability to budget, and, have that budget from year to year and manage our own expenses, so.
Alyssa, would you like to make that motion?
Yes, so I'd like to make a motion to transfer funds in the amount of $2,500 from account DA 05.514.0.477 highway funds, supplies / trees to newly created account A 005.6310.447 general funds, tree commission supplies / trees.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. So we have moved the generally budgeted amount from the DA to the newly created general funds for tree commission.
Yes.
Scott, second motion?
I'd like to make another motion to transfer funds in the amount of $450 from account DA 05.5140.402 highway funds, seminar / conferences to the newly created account A 005.6131.402 general funds, tree commission seminar / conferences. And thanks for the head bob, John.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. We've now moved the seminars and conferences funds from the DA to the general fund for tree commission.
And then there's one more.
Yes, so next up on the agenda, we have before us a request for approval for a tree not to exceed $125 for a addition to the Earth Fast raffle.
Yes, so now that we moved and created these new budget lines to the A fund, the board will now have to approve our expenditures from the tree commission. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the tree commission to purchase a tree in an amount not to exceed $125 to donate to the Earth Fest raffle this Saturday.
It's not this Saturday, it's.
Oh, I'm sorry, May 4th, my bad, May 4th. I'm a week ahead. I'm a week ahead. I'm so excited for it. I'm so excited, Caitlin. Just so excited for it.
Oh, good, I'm so glad. I literally have nightmares every single night about it.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay.
While we're here, I'd like to commend the tree commission for their work at the fish stack today. They gave away a lot of baby trees to a lot of children. And also, Alyssa was unable to attend, but the fish stack was a great event again from our recreation department, which always does a good job.
Thank you very much. And also thanks to our Cornell Park Extension consultant, Leanna, for being there to give out those seedlings that you're talking about.
So next up, we had previously considered some new policies, including procurement, travel, reimbursement, and investment. I know there's still some questions on the procurement. I wanted to get everything out so that people could see kind of the progress that's going on. And my question to the board is really if the amendments to the travel, the investment policy meet everyone's needs. And we have prepared motions, but if people would like a little more to consider, could easily kick this to the next meeting. And thank you to Councilor Bollinger for kind of collecting all of our feedback from the previous meeting and redrafting those policies.
I'm comfortable moving the travel one if people feel like that's put together.
I'm okay with travel.
Yeah, travel's fine.
Cool. So I would like to motion to approve the travel employee reimbursement policy for the town of Manlius as presented and pending legal review.
I'll second. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. And the, one of the things we really wanted to do is make sure that we have a clear path of current policies to new policies. And that's something that I'm gonna be working on with the comptroller and then providing that to the town attorney, but also the town manager for their review. So that's why we've got that caveat in there. And then, do you wanna go ahead and?
I don't know if everybody's comfortable with the investment on that.
Oh, I had sent a question, I don't think I got an answer to it, so.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if you want to table it.
And we definitely need the record.
Was that about the procurement policy? Mike?
What's that?
Did he just say his question was about the procurement policy? That you didn't get an answer back about? I just didn't hear what you had said.
Yeah, I think I sent a question for both of those, but John just brought that one up. So if we table the both of those, my request would be to table both of
Yeah,
those.
that's great.
I don't know if everybody.
Well, because we were kind of working off of, comments.
Yeah.
And now that we've got it re-amended,
We could
we
formally-
have to review this for the next meeting. That's great, thank you. So next up,
I need a motion to authorize the purchase of cabling materials from Voss Signs, not to exceed $1,000. I'll second.
yeah, and just,
It's on
to,
this.
yeah, so on the agenda, it kind of breaks down where the funds are coming from. So Watershed Stewards does have a balance, based on the previous, fundraiser. Sustainable Living has a balance, and town board, we're gonna spend the $209.90 for a tablecloth, so
So
that table is.
That's not $209,900.
No, it's.
Sure.
So all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Because that would be above 1,000.
Yeah. We have done feasibility presentation, so any other new business, anything you would like to add before we?
I would like to add 2 quick things. One, Sustainable Manlius and Renewable Fayetteville will be hosting Earth Fest 2024. I've been working 40 hours a week on this for weeks. It's coming up on May 4th from 10 to 3 at Canal Landing Park. We're going to have music, food trucks, children's activities. We've got dozens of tablers, organizations from all around the region. We're getting more every day. We're actually almost at our max. We should have a couple dozen electric vehicles. And it's really been a collaborative process. We've got a great team of volunteers as well as my colleagues, Ingrid and Mike. So, it's really coming together nicely. So there's a lot of signs out. We've got ads on WAER. We got ads in the Eagle Bulletin, and other ads going out tomorrow, Facebook ads. And they will have live music. I don't know, am I missing anything?
Well, there's gonna be, I think, the Tesla truck thing looks like something out of Roblox. As the chief said, our EV police vehicle will be there. There's a bus scheduled to be there, so these are cool things to check out.
Yeah, and we've, I would be remiss to not mention, that, Solar Simplified is our title sponsor, so they contributed $5,000 to the event. Labella, 2,500, National Grid, 1,000, and then we've had a watch donated by Skinny Atlas Jewelry, that's quite valuable, that will be a raffle prize, and we have dozens and dozens of other raffle prizes.
That's great.
Yeah, so, and please volunteer, we need more people that help on the day of. I expect all of you, and all of you to be there on the 4th to help
The
us.
scientific QR codes.
Yeah, you can take. And then the other thing I wanted to mention, we have a meeting coming up at Mott Road. We finally got that scheduled, and I'll be working with the school district to promote that. And that's coming up. I had it right up here, and then I scrolled. That's coming up on the 14th. It's a Tuesday, the 14th of May. And that'll be at 7 p.m. at Mott Road Elementary School, and that's to talk about sidewalk program. It's a very preliminary discussion just to see if there's political will in the neighborhood to move that forward. I'm hopeful that Elaine will be able to make it, something she will, to talk about work she's doing on Andrews Road. So very excited about that. So we're continuing.
Yeah, and I will say the beginning of that conversation kind of started when we were looking at the boats are law firm, some change.
Yeah.
So it took a little time to get there, but we're able to address some of those major concerns, but also too, we've expanded it a little bit to, rather than saying, hey, that's this area, we're gonna try to address it, we've looked at a way of kind of bringing other parts of the community in. So thank you very much for setting that up.
Yeah, thank you. That's all for me.
Okay, get some minutes.
Thanks. You need some
I'm
motion?
gonna abstain, I have to leave for meetings.
Okay, I wasn't at the last meeting.
Sorry, I will just do minutes then. I did read them. I would make a motion to approve the minutes of 4/10/2020.
Well, I'll second, I didn't really look for the motion. I had some discussion about it, yeah, you're good.
Okay, so all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? And all those abstaining? Motion carries.
Yeah, okay. Want to do some abstract?
Abstract, I would like to make a motion to approve abstract number 8 in the amount of $382,531.38.
Second.
I beat you to it.
Aye. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. One last time, any other business?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second motion.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Have a wonderful night.
Well,